Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian of supermarsy.com, and welcome to the 8th edition of my MIFF video reviews. For this one, I'm going to be reviewing the indie comedies Nasty Baby and Tangerine. So let's get right into it. Now, as I've stated in previous videos that I've been doing so far, that I will be reading the synopsises for the films from this year's MIFF guide, mainly so that I don't screw them up, so which I do have a habit of doing. So, first up, Nasty Baby. In his latest film, Sebastian Silva directs and stars as a Brooklyn artist trying to have a child with his boyfriend and their best friend, played by Kristen Wiig. While developing a systematically awkward art project about the experience, complications arise when a malevolent vagrant makes life uncomfortable for everyone involved. I have to say, I haven't really seen much films from director Sebastian Silva. The only one that I've seen of his, well, at least I'm aware of that I have seen, is his 2013 film Magic Magic, which I did actually see at the Melbourne International Film Festival of that year. And I actually didn't mind that movie. It was a flawed film, but I thought it was a pretty solid sort of psychological thriller. This one is definitely a different type of breed. This one's definitely more sort of a comedy, and he's also the star of this one. And I have to say though, I think I wasn't sure how he would do, acting wise in his role, but I thought he did a pretty solid job. At times, his inexperience as an actor does show at certain moments, but as the film sort of progresses along, he actually does get better. And of course, yeah. But the film does have a pretty solid supporting cast, and of course, to me, the best one of the lot, of course, is Kristen Wiig, who I thought did a really great job with her performance. That being said, though, even though I thought there's a lot of really sort of elements about this film that I like, unfortunately, I wasn't a fan of this one, and the reason why that is, the first hour or so is it's kind of like you're kind of somewhat quirky, kind of like indie comedy. And like I said, it for most part, I didn't think all the sort of the humor worked for me, but some of it did, and other times it didn't quite. But at the same time, I did enjoy the performances of the cast. But unfortunately, what really kind of ruined this film for me, though, was the third act. Because in the third act, the film goes in a completely different direction. One that you would not have even though, yeah, it's kind of, there's, which you just don't expect. And especially when, the first hour or so is basically sort of light and funny and sort of this and quirky. And then it sort of takes this much darker direction in the third act, which honestly I felt really jarring, and I just didn't feel like it worked. I see the purpose of what Silva was doing with this last half and what he was going for, but unfortunately I just didn't think it worked at all. And although funnily enough, after the screening of this film, he actually did a Q&A, and he pretty much his entire time was he apologized for the ending for those who didn't like it. But like I said, I know what he was going for and what kind of themes and sort of and all that he was going for with the third act. But unfortunately, like I said, the sudden tone shift was so jarring that it just felt like I was watching a completely different movie, and unfortunately, it just didn't work for me. And I don't mind it when movies kind of shift gears or go in directions you don't expect, but it has to sort of, or even tones, but it has to sort of make sense within the story, and the tone of it, it is very jarring when you watch it. Like I said, it's all light and sort of funny and quirky, and then all of a sudden, completely dark all of a sudden. And I didn't expect that at all, to be honest. Even though, it kind of, in a way, when sort of looking back on the film, you kind of see that he's kind of building up to it. But I don't know, I just didn't really think that it worked, to be honest. And it kind of just ruined the film for me, which is a shame because, even though I wasn't I was kind of mixed on the first half, but I thought it was pretty decent for most part. But unfortunately, it's just the last half that kind of ruined it. But like I said, there's still great elements in it. Like the acting is pretty well done. Kristen Wiig is great, of course. There are some funny moments, um, and I sort of liked sort of the relationship between our three main characters. And yeah, that stuff worked to me. It's that last half just kind of ruined it, unfortunately. So if I had to give Nasty Baby a rating, I would give it about a 2.5. It probably would have been about a 3, but 3, maybe 3.5, but because of that rating, I mean, that last half, it just unfortunately didn't work, so I had to lower it to a 2.5. So overall, 2.5 stars. Like I said, a lot of people I know, I sort of read up online afterwards, a lot of people did happen to really like the film and also didn't mind the sudden change in gears when it came to the third act, but for me personally, like I said, it just didn't really work. So now moving on to the next film, which of course is Tangerine. And what is this one about? I shall tell you. It's Christmas Eve on the sun-blasted streets of Hollywood, and male to female prostitute Cinderella is fresh out of the joint and on a mission to track down her cheating pimp boyfriend. Together with her best friend and fellow trans sex worker Alexandra, they set out on a manic odyssey that takes them through the beautiful fringes of LA's subculture. I wasn't sure what to expect with Tangerine. I didn't hear a lot of great things about this film out of Sundance and how it got a lot of raves. But at the same time, like it sounded like listening when you hear the sort of the plot to the film, it does sound really interesting. And I did like the fact that the two main stars of the films are actual real life transgender people, and that sort of brings a sort of an authenticity to the characters they're playing. And I thought, okay, that makes that for that alone just made me really interested in checking out. And I have to say though, like the film was directed by I believe Sean Baker, who wrote and directed it. I thought this was a really good film. I really enjoyed this film a lot. It does a really good job at sort of mixing sort of comedy and drama, but at the same time though, Baker brings a freshness to it and an energy that makes the film feel very bright, vibrant, and alive. And of course, the two leads of the film are Kitana Kiki Rodriguez and Maya Taylor, who play our two leads. They're both terrific, and they give really wonderful performances, and I really enjoyed seeing them on screen. But also the supporting cast did a solid too. And I'm not sure if it's probably a mixture of. Honestly, there wasn't any kind of name actors in this film. Although, and this one actually made me really. There was one actor in particular. The only person I sort of recognized in this film, and it's one I was actually made me giddy with excitement because I didn't honestly expect he was in this film because I didn't know about his casting, and that's Clu Gulager. Clu Gulager pops up for a sort of a very quick scene, and I thought. And he's pretty funny in the film, so that made sort of the fanboy in me really excited. But I really enjoyed, like I said, I really enjoyed this film, and it was kind of interesting, kind of seeing, this side of LA that we've never seen before, especially sort of of the transgender community, and sort of especially, and I thought it was interesting how the film sort of tackled that. It didn't do it in a way. But which I thought, like I said, it brought a sort of, like I said, an authenticity in the film, especially that the film cast two real life transgender actors in these two roles, and also, but at the same time though, it's a really entertaining film, and it like I said, it's vibrant, it's alive, and the filmmaking is just Sean Baker, who wrote and directed it, did a really great job. Did a really good job at this film. And what's interesting though, and the film looks visually stunning, and it looks beautiful. And what was maybe astounded by that is that this film was shot entirely on iPhones, and I'm not joking when I say that. And when I first heard about that, I thought, okay, I was curious to see how the film was going to look, but no, I after seeing it on the big screen, it looked great. I just couldn't believe this entire film was shot on iPhones, and it just looked gorgeous, and like I said, it just brought and it made the film look so beautiful and vibrant, and it just looked great, and Bacon just, you can tell that he really was invested with this film and the stories and the characters, and because and I just thought he just did a really good job with this film. The only sort of really negatives I have about the film is I do feel like the film can be a bit shrill at times, and the reason for that being is there are a lot of scenes in this film where characters kind of are yelling and screaming and arguing with each other, and that I thought did get a little too much at times. It got to a point where I was thinking, oh geez, if David O. Russell watched this film, he would like be green with envy for all the shouting in this film. But yeah, but so I didn't mind it at first, but as it sort of happens a couple of times during the film, and it did get a little bit too much each time though. And also, and what else? Well, that's sort of the main sort of criticism. And also, I do feel like even though it's a very fast pace and quick film, at times it does tend to drag a bit because there's also a lot of scenes where characters are just walking around, and it also became a little bit sort of a little too much as well, and maybe that type of stuff could have sort of been cut down a bit as well, but sort of give it a bit more, even though it's a pretty well fast-paced film, but it's just during those moments where it just became a little too, it did drag a bit. So but overall I think Tangerine was really good film, and it's like I said, it brings a freshness to indie films, especially indie comedies, and it's one that I definitely think everyone should check out. I really enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, it's not perfect, but I think but it's still a pretty solid one that I really enjoyed it. If I had to give this one a rating, I'd give it a solid 3.5. It probably would have been higher, but mainly it was kind of all the constant yelling and arguing and shouting kind of lowered it down, which kind of I found pretty aggravating after a while. I kind of lowered it a bit, but overall, like I said, really good film that I'd say definitely check out when it comes to your cinema. And like I said, 3.5 stars. So, yep, that's the end of this 8th edition of my MIFF video reviews. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and keep a lookout very soon for my 9th edition, in which I will be reviewing the new Australian film The Daughter, and as well as the martial arts film The Assassin. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you guys all later. See you everyone. Bye.